So I'm going to put the link underneath this podcast. Up there's the YouTube video, whatever, the info box, whatever YouTube is calling it these days, to the Duke of Death, where you can follow his exploits and see what he's up to. So one of the things that I try to do in every game that I play, especially Battletech, is develop a personality, develop a little bit of internal dialogue, a story, a history, physically behind the mechs that I play. Now, certainly we all have our favorite mechs. In any given game, there's going to be certain mechs, certain machines that I will take and I will play. Some are really good, really awesome. Others are kind of dogs of the game, but I for whatever reason, I like them. You know, for one of them, the Marauder. Marauder's actually not a bad machine. Warhammer, not a bad machine, but a lot of nuances that you need to keep in mind in there. But early on, my first entry into Battletech, those were the two mechs that I played. And just they captured my imagination. I have the most history in there. I just like them. So we see this in our games. And being a physical miniature type game, at least in my opinion, these units start to have history. You know, when I'm preparing for a game ahead of time, we agree kind of on the parameters a couple of days before. At least this is usually how it is. And I'll sit there and think about, okay, what do I feel like playing? And I'll physically pull out some mechs from my case and look at them and think, okay, how could this work? Do I want to play it safe? Do I want to kind of push it? And when I see those mechs, I see past battles. I see past glory on there. It's a very strange thing in wargaming with that. And I noticed that more in sci-fi wargaming versus historical type wargaming. I don't know, maybe it's all the time spent building, painting, collecting. So this idea of stories and this idea of attachments spills over naturally into the gaming systems. Building on that, I do my best to try to win every game. I try to play the best that I can. I don't always make the best tactical decisions, but win or lose, I'm always going to try and win. Win or lose, I still want to feel like something interesting happened, or that you and I are taking time out of every day, and can I create a story? Can I participate in a story? I don't know which way the battle's going to go, but also in something like Battletech, which for the most part is done by the numbers, is most part controlling the random and understanding the probabilities. But every now and then something gets mixed in, like a crit or a headshot, or you kick something and you fall down, or just you miss that shot that you shouldn't miss. You fail 2 consciousness tests in 2 turns. You can't wake up. You're napping on the battlefield. Crazy stuff happens in there. So to tie in a story, like Maximus, are you not entertained? So certain mechs, even if I'm not playing in a campaign, I view them as a pilot. I view them as a story on there. And the Urbanmech is one of them. And that's where I want to share with you the Duke of Death. With light mechs, there's a stable of light mechs that I enjoy playing and that are very tactical. Then we've got something like the Locust, which one of my goals is to become the most feared Locust pilot in the Inner Sphere. But the Locust is a scout mech. Maybe you could use it for infantry suppression. I've tried that on the stock variant, but infantry never travel alone. And Locust is a little too light on there. I mean, if I'm hitting you with the machine guns at point blank, you're hitting me too with your stuff at point blank, and I can't really take that. So for the most part, we relegate the Locust to a scouting type mech, maybe a spotting type mech. I can't even do cash and grab because I don't even have arms on there. At least the Thorn, which I also play, is got an arm and a hand. But with the Locust, one of the challenges that I wanted to look at was, how do I use, and obviously it's multiple Locusts, how do I use these guys aggressively? How do I use these where they're a threat, and if you don't realize they're a threat, they're all on top of you? So I want to take a mech out of its role and its traditional role and really try to push it on the tabletop. So that leads me into the Locust. And then I'm expanding out my mech collection, and at some point in Battletech, you're going to make your way to the Urbanmech on there. And you're going to look and realize it wants to be a heavier mech than it is the AC-10 stock is good, but it doesn't have the armor for long-term engagement. You don't have the arms on there, and what kills it is its speed on there. It just absolutely kills it. At least something like the Puma, the Kurita light mech on there with the PPC and the SRM. It's not the Panther. I always confuse those, Panther and Puma. The light mech, that's not that fast. But you know what? I'm a light mech with a PPC. So that's the trade-off, at least. You look at something like the Urbanmech and you're like, where's the trade-off? This thing is so slow. It excels in an urban environment, but even then it has to be very, very specialized in the urban environment. So a mech that in the narrative makes sense, but tabletop, when's the last time you saw an Urbanmech? So I'm like, I want to play that mech. I want to throw an Urbanmech down there for the lulz, and it's low battle value. So, you know, we could tweak a list. We can put some stuff in. So you learn. First couple of games, I'm not even making it to the front. By the time I make it up there to that front line, the engagement band on the table, everything else is done. But then I learn a little bit. I learn how things work. I'm engaging with it, and I'm having a little fun. And when you have fun, you want to escalate the fun. So I'm thinking, okay, variants. For the most part, I play stock mechs. There are a couple of variants which I believe are better than the stock. The example would be a Locust. I think it's the, you guys will correct it, is it the 5L, the variant with the SRM2s. That gives that Locust a stinger. Well, then it would be a stinger, right? That gives that Locust some bite on there. Makes it very, very potent with the laser and the missiles and the ability to run and stuff. So looking at variants, I looked at the AC-20. Now, you know I love big guns. We just got done reviewing the Atlas with the Autocannon 20. We've looked at the Cyclops with the AC-20. We've looked at the big guns AC-20 Tactics. Can I take a lulz mech, put an AC-20 on it, and try to utilize it tactically and aggressively? And if it works, if it actually works, or if I actually pull it off in a fight, can you imagine joining the ranks of the dispossessed at the hands of an Urbanmech? The only thing more disastrous would be against infantry or something like that on there. So it just kind of took on a life on its own. And I needed a backstory. I needed a reason to try and be doing this on the table. And that was my mech pilot, my mech warrior, Torg Ellington, the Duke of Death, and his narrative in there. So again, the link is down there under this podcast, under this vlog. Pictures going to kind of open up his campaign. As I play him through, I'm going to be recording his exploits on there as long as he's alive. If he gets killed, I'll dump those C-bills in. We'll rebuild. But if he gets killed, then that's the end of that. There has to be some permanency even in a game. So I want to encourage you over the next couple of games, those one or two mechs that you love. I don't need justification. I don't, because I've got some weird mechs that I try to justify on there. What's the backstory? What's the personal glory? They've got the narrative, they've got the mission, they've got the campaign, they're trying to win it. But in that moment for the house, for the mercenary company, for the family name, or just for the craziness, what are they trying to do on the table, game to game, and how are they trying to deliver that? When you do that in Battletech, when you do that in any gaming system, now it opens up something living. Now it opens up something live and evolving, and every time you look at that mech, you're like, yeah, this is what's going on. This is what they've done. This is what they're going to try and do in the next couple of games on there. And it helps to immerse you more permanently in that narrative.